College football is back. Week 1 started with the bang with 3 top 10 matchups. We're going to recap week 0 and week 1 together for this because we didn't do a full recap of week 0 and there were some games that we want to talk about there. So with college football back, a lot of excitement to get to. Let's go ahead and roll with the biggest takeaways from the first week and some change of the college football season if you count week 0, because a lot of things were going on. And again, once again, that's Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures. We start with Ohio State's defense looks elite, and Arch Manning looks underwhelming in his debut at Texas. That was the storyline of the weekend. Arch Manning and Texas scored 1 touchdown, lose to Ohio State on the road 14-7. Am I hot or cold on these things sticking? Well, I'm hot on Ohio State's defense staying elite. They had a lot of talent back. They are loaded everywhere on that side of the ball. So I think that was legit. I'm cold on Arch Manning, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, am I hot or cold on what happened over the weekend staying in narrative? I'm cold on Arch Manning and Texas struggling staying in narrative. I think that's a very tough first start for a quarterback. Arch Manning went to a brutal environment. And when you take that into account, I think he will be fine. He did miss some throws that he should not have missed. I do agree there. But I also think that Texas will be fine long-term. That was just a tough first game to have. Okay, what about Alabama? They're in trouble. And Florida State looks back as the Seminoles beat Alabama in a shocker 31-17 at home over the weekend when Alabama was favored by 13.5. After going 9-4 last year, Kalen DeBoer, the selling point was he just needs his offense. He just needs his quarterback to run the system because Jalen Milroe wasn't a fit. I made that claim, and he's going to get it with Ty Simpson. And now that Ryan Grubb is back, the guy who had him have success at Washington, he's going to take it to another level. And so I had Alabama covering on Saturday. I thought they were going to win and running away, and that just didn't happen. Alabama ended up struggling severely, by the way, and lost to Florida State 31-17. The offense wasn't what I thought it'd be. They only had 341 yards of total offense to Florida State's 382. Okay, Alabama in trouble. Believe it or not, I'm cold on that. I don't think Alabama actually will be good long term. I think this was a first game jitters thing for Ty Simpson. We'll see how it works out. But I just can't bring myself to believe that Kalen DeBoer's offense is going to falter in the SEC. I saw it succeed at too many other places, and he's got the talent now. So I'm having, I just think this was a fluke game, and I actually think Alabama's going to be fine. I was big on them at the beginning of the year, but I can't just leave after one game, even though that was shocking. As far as Florida State being back, yeah, I think they might be back. They certainly looked the part. That was a great job by Florida State. Remember, Mike Norvell's team just quit through half the year last year after everything that happened. They were so angry about being undefeated and not going anywhere the year before. I think now they are. I think with Tommy Castellanos, that was a heck of a game by him. And I think overall, Florida State's defense was solid. I think Florida State is back and playing in the ACC. You're going to have to contend with them in the college football playoff this year. So yeah, no, I think Florida State's absolutely back. Speaking of other ACC teams, though, not all of them were as lucky. LSU finally gets a big win under Brian Kelly, and Cade Klubnik still looks overrated. I'm hot on both of these narratives. I told you guys before the season started, Cade Klubnik was being massively overrated for how he finished the season at Clemson last year. But when he actually played SEC teams, South Carolina at home, he scored 14 points. And then Texas in the college football playoff game, he scored 10 points midway through the third quarter, and then Texas allowed 2 garbage touchdowns. Oh, and he had 3 when he faced Georgia at the beginning of the last year. Yeah, all of that is important because I had said from the start he's massively overrated, and I felt that my best underpick of last weekend was Clemson and LSU. I said take the under no matter what, and boy was I right on that because LSU's offense you would think would sputter because it's a first game jitters for LSU, and the offense always sputters in Brian Kelly's first game, but I thought their defense would win it because of how bad Cade Klubnik or how overrated he was, and boy, was I right on that. So I think absolutely Cade Klubnik, overrated. That is my takeaway from LSU, from Clemson for that, and I was right. And LSU finally getting a big win, turning a corner in Brian Kelly's in Brian Kelly's 4th year on the job. I'm hot on that. This is a big corner turning win for LSU. It shows them they can win close games. It gives them the confidence they need. They've been in these moments. They've been in these situations. They've had the opportunities. Every year Brian Kelly's been there. To finally get one will help them turn a corner. I am huge on LSU. That's a big one. All right. Miami looking elite with Carson Beck. The Hurricanes beat Notre Dame 27-24 in a game that wasn't even that close last weekend. Okay, I'm cold on this narrative staying. I think Notre Dame had a lot of youth, had a lot of things going against them in this one. They were on the road. And the biggest reason I'm cold on this is I think Mario Cristobal is going to find a way to screw this up. Okay, you had it in this one. Miami was playing very conservative late and sitting on a lead, and they let Notre Dame get back in this game. They just straight up let Notre Dame get back in this game. And I think Mario Cristobal is going to screw this up somehow. And because of that, I'm cold on this Miami narrative staying the same thing. But I'm hot on Notre Dame being in trouble now. This is not a loss you want to start the season. They now have to face Texas A&M, and they still have to face and they still have some good ACC teams they're going to have to play. But Miami, the problem with Notre Dame now, Texas A&M's their last chance at a quality win down the road. They don't really have a chance at another quality win unless you think USC is going to turn things around this year. So with this loss, they could have been eliminated from college football playoff contention. Notre Dame might be done from. They might not. They might already be eliminated from college football playoff contention because I don't see a quality win the rest of the way unless they beat Texas A&M and then Texas A&M goes on a roll. But if they lose this Saturday, it's over. There's no coming back for Marcus Freeman's team. There's nobody else they play on the schedule to earn a college football playoff berth, and that's a big issue. Staying in the ACC, which, by the way, the ACC was the story of the weekend because they actually were playing a lot of big games to their credit. But Bill Belichick humiliated on Monday night. Humiliated. It is over 48-14 in a loss to TCU. The defense was horrible. Defense is supposed to be Bill Belichick's calling card. It was not in this game. They made Josh Hoover, TCU quarterback, look like a Heisman candidate. I will get to that in a second, by the way. But Bill Belichick was horrible. It was terrible. Freddie Kitchens, as the offensive coordinator, did not look ready to go. And Stephen Belichick, his son, being the defensive coordinator, that looked like an issue. Now, UNC, I didn't think would be elite off the start because they're running a standard pro-style offense and they're facing and that they just don't have the talent to win with pro-style offense because you gotta have the talent when you're running that offense. At the same time, TCU, though, Sonny Dykes has not had the same level of magic that he's had since his first year at SMU. It's been very similar to what he did at Cal back in the day, but he did go 9-4 last year. They were a top 25 fringe team this year. So with that in mind, you could see how that would happen. But losing like that, that's a big concern for North Carolina long term. You can't lose like that. Losing to TCU is one thing. Losing like that is very embarrassing. So I'm hot on this narrative of Bill Belichick having trouble throughout his first year because if they had just lost, it'd be one thing. But losing like that, I think there's some big issues at North Carolina. And the more he loses, the more things will spiral for him specifically because a lot of people think this experiment won't work out. The SEC 4-2 in non-conference games against Power 4 schools. Nobody else had more than 3 wins. More importantly, the SEC played all of their games against Power 4 non-conference schools away from home. Texas, LSU, and Auburn played on the road for what it's worth. Tennessee, South Carolina, and Alabama, by the way, and Alabama. 4 of these games were on the road. Tennessee and South Carolina played at neutral sites. This is all relevant because you saw after Texas lost and after Alabama lost, a lot of people saying the SEC was choking, ignoring the fact that the SEC was playing more Power 4 schools than any other conference during the weekend, and none of them were at home. And Auburn winning, Tennessee winning, South Carolina winning, and LSU getting the big one Saturday night against Clemson. Very clear that they were dominating. Very clear that the SEC is still a lead. The narrative that they choked doesn't exist. I'm cold on that narrative staying because that narrative shouldn't be out there from Saturday. People are underrating how good the SEC was, but that just shows how they reset the standards so much. So I'm cold on that. The SEC was 4-2. Big 12. Impossible to figure out as it stands right now. Just like last year, as Josh Pate calls it, America's Conference. Big 12 is wide open. Iowa State beat Kansas State in a top 25 matchup to start the season, which was a big deal when they did that. All Kansas State did after that was not look like a quality team because they barely beat North Dakota. Meanwhile, in terms of Power 5 matchups, Cincinnati lost at home to Nebraska on Thursday. On Friday, Baylor lost at home to Auburn. And Colorado, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, thanks to some of his poor coaching in his first game with Kaden Salter, lost at home to Georgia Tech. However, they closed strong. We just talked about the TCU game at UNC. On Saturday night, Utah blew out UCLA. So it looks like Utah and TCU are the best teams in the Big 12 right now, with some of the teams that had higher, and Iowa State too. Iowa State's still good. They held all South Dakota, or destroyed South Dakota 55-7. Right now, it looks like an Iowa State, Texas Tech, Utah, and TCU race. Kansas State looks like they could really be faltering. Colorado, if they lose another one, they'll be out of it before they even fix things, if you think they're going to fix things. So they could be in really big trouble going forward. But the Big 12 looks wide open once again. We don't know how that's going to play out. And I'm hot on that staying a wide open, hard to figure out conference. Speaking of things hard to figure out, the Group of 5 race for the playoff, the Group of 5 team to get in, thrown for a complete loop and busted wide open. Why? Boise State, the one top 25 Group of 5 team to open the year, went and got draxed by former Tennessee offensive coordinator Alex Golis, who's the head coach of South Florida in Tampa. South Florida won 34-7. I'm mad at myself because I picked South Florida plus 5.5 in that game, and I wish I took the money line because they absolutely dominated, and that has totally burst the Group of 5 race for the playoff wide open. And I'm hot on it staying that way the rest of the year because the Group of 5 race for the playoff is always going to be wide open. That's just how things go. Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia. Daily updates, facebook.com/sports treasures TN, facebook.com/sports treasures TN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
All right, my Heisman race right now, and this is solely based on what you did over the weekend and who you did it against. And I don't care if you're racked up stats against FCS schools, I'm not putting you in there. So my Heisman race is based on people who played well in games against top-level competition, or at least Power 5 competition. And so with that in mind, my leading Heisman contender right now, and this may upset some of you guys, but my leading Heisman contender right now, as of today, based on what was produced, and again, this is not like power rankings, and neither will my top 10 be, because this is based on what you've done to this point, and I separate by tiers based on, did you do it against a playoff team, a Power 4 school, or a Group of 5 school? And leading the way is Devon Dampier at Utah, who was 21-25 for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns, and ran for another 87 yards and 1 touchdown on the road, and Utah's 43-10 win over UCLA. He's leading the Heisman race. That was indisputably the best performance by a quarterback over the weekend. However, the second best performance by a quarterback over the weekend. And remember when I told you guys that I thought the Jackson Arnold issues were not about Jackson Arnold, but were about Brent Venables? Well, he made it look like that on Friday when Auburn beat Baylor. Jackson Arnold was only 11-17 for 108 yards, but then he had 16 carries for 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, being that elite running and throwing the ball against a Power 5 school on the road in a convincing win. Jackson Arnold is now in my Heisman race. That's right, Jackson Arnold. Moving on, speaking of epic road performances, Josh Hoover at TCU. Josh Hoover at TCU, easily third in my Heisman race. 27-36 for 284 yards and 2 touchdowns against North Carolina the other night. Josh Hoover had an incredible performance. Josh Hoover is in my Heisman race as of right now. Speaking of some ACC guys, we got a couple other SEC guys that are in this race because of what they did to ACC schools. Lenora Sellers, as of right now, is 4th on my Heisman list. 12-19 for 209 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Also ran for 25 yards as of right now. And then finally, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Garrett Nussmeier, with what he did to lead them to a win over Clemson. Even though it was a defensive win, Nussmeier was highly efficient, 28 of 38, 232 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, had an 82.7 total QBR. Am I hot or cold on this race relatively staying the same as the year goes on? I'm very cold on it. This is based on what you did this year. I think the majority of people will not be in New York that I just named in my Heisman race going forward. But again, it has to be based on what you did. And speaking of based on what you did, that's how my top 10 is going to work. Who did you beat? Did you beat where did you beat them? How much did you beat them by? And were they a playoff team last year? Taking all that into account, for my top 10, my number 1 is clear as day, easy as heck to rank. That would be LSU. Who is number 1? They deserve to be number 1. They have proven themselves at number 1. They beat a playoff team from last year on the road, 17-10. There's no debate that LSU should be number 1. Number 2 for me, Ohio State. Ohio State beat Texas at home. Texas, again, another playoff team last year. Ohio State getting that win. They should be number 2. Number 3, Miami. Again, I don't think that'll last, but beating Notre Dame, another playoff team, Miami deserves to be number 3. Number 4, and I keep telling you guys this, it's about who you played. South Florida is number 4. Not going to last, I get it, but they blew out a playoff team from last year. So for right now, when you go by resume and body of work, South Florida's number 4. Number 5, Iowa State. Got a Power 5 win in over Kansas State, and they are 2-0 right now. Number 6, Georgia Tech. Got a Power 5 win against Colorado. So Georgia Tech for me is number 6. Number 7, Florida State. Convincing Power 5 win. Florida State's number 7. Number 8, TCU. Blew out North Carolina on the road. They have to be number 8. Number 9, Utah. Blew out UCLA on the road. Number 10, Auburn. The only other schools that can compete right now for a case to be in the top 25 or top 10 are Tennessee, Nebraska, South Carolina, and Cal. That's it. But again, we're just kind of very much parsing here. Am I hot or cold on this staying the same? I'm very cold on this. This is not going to be what the top 10 is down the road. This is based on what you've done to this point. I can't have Georgia in the top 10. They beat Marshall. Okay. Sorry. I just can't. You got to do more. Things will don't freak out. It's week 1. Things will filter themselves out. I just had to do it based on what was done based on week 1.